You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Reject complacency by becoming your own source of inspiration. This is the seer Almin. Let's listen to Almin now as she tells us all about sleep through the seer's eyes.
In my heart of hearts, I have known that light and frequency is just the potter's clay. That we are not the clay, nor are we the pot. We are part of the potter. And the potter being an infinite ocean without shores, and each is like a unique current. So also in boundlessness have we existed, with no beginning and no end. Well, light and frequency is clear to me from years of studying them. They are the components that create space and time. Space is created when frequency ripples through a designated area, being different than what's around it. Now it has created a separation. This is the area of this frequency, this isn't. So it's made a space. So they're interconnected. And so I understood that I needed to get beyond light and beyond frequency. But to get beyond light and frequency, I had to understand where they came from. Light and frequency has actually been the two leading tyrants of existence. And why is that they had us believe the following story. I have looked this story over for some years now. I have known it's a lie. Everything about it has said to me, this is an illusion. But until I could see what the illusion was, I couldn't move beyond the cage. I suspect that what has happened today is that I've actually managed to move out of the cage, and all the unprocessed emotions, or all the emotions, had to flow through me. This has been leading up during the last week, and the intense emotional experiences of today, so uncharacteristic, is birthing something new. And I believe it's a life beyond light and frequency. See, light and frequency told existence, you need us. Without us, you have no memory and you have no interpretation. And so I am going, yes, that's true. Because there have been times that I have moved out of the matrix. And when I move out of the matrix, I can spend eons of existence there, come back the next second, and have no recollection of what I spent there. But the matrix removes memory. That's why people, when they go through a specific grid of life into death, they have a moment where they can look at their life. But as they move through, a lot of what they've lived is forgotten. When a child is birthed, a lot of what went on in the spirit world, or the soul world is a more correct term, is forgotten. A matrix sucks up memories. A matrix looks like stacked tubes of glass that have an octahedral shape. And if you stack them, they're like a honeycomb. That's what a matrix looks like, and it is very electrical. And when the electrical charge hits you as you go through, it is like a power surge that wipes memory on your computer clean. So I have thought, yes, evidence seems to suggest that that there is no memory and there's no interpretation outside of the matrix. And we've been in matrices within matrices, but I mean outside of the matrix of duality. Then how is this possible that we can get free from light and frequency? Because we need them. The minute you need something, you're completely at a disadvantage. Because now you have given your power away and you've lost your sovereignty. Memory is kept through frequency. It's the magnetics on the tape that will hold the memory of the music. And then you have to plug it into the wall for the electricity to interpret it so that it will play it for you. You need the electricity to interpret and the magnetics to hold the memory. Once I understood how they came about, I understood that this tyranny's programming of you need us or you will have no memory of any of your experiences is incorrect. Not more than a week ago, someone said to me, there are people that literally can't remember from moment to moment what the last moment held. And I said, yes, I saw the very bad movie, 40 First Dates, and there was a home where people go to with various degrees of memory loss. And I must say that I understand a little bit of what that's like, because when I go through very, very profound spiritual experiences or travel outside of matrices where I've ever been before, I have difficulty at times finishing my sentence, because by the beginning of the sentence, the end, there's no memory, there's no retention. So I've experienced quite a bit of it. And so the point is that that's certainly not a very nice place to be. So coupled with, wait a minute, this doesn't feel very good, to, oh, wait a minute, this must be true, because if I leave the matrix and I come back, I have no memory of what happened. It has held on for years, even though I knew that someday they must be gone. So here's how it arose. Within beingness, this is the potter. Light and frequency is the clay that makes the pots, which is life within the matrix. So within beingness, the infinite is experiencing. The minute something was experienced, that the infinite said, this is wonderful, what is this? The minute it asked for interpretation of its experience, the duality of light and frequency arose, and linear time and space. The distance, I've said this before, it's a very metaphysical thing, but the distance between a question and an answer creates space. It makes a gap in time. So what is this that I've just experienced will make two things. It holds on to the memory long enough to interpret it, and the next moment it creates interpretation. If you have an experience that needs to be interpreted, you now have more than one moment that you're living. You now have two moments that you're living. And you have created the future, the interpretation, that where I get the answer, and the past. See, let's say that I have an experience where I am feeling incredible emotions, and I want to understand what they are, and I say, I must understand this, because what does this mean? Now, my moment is consumed with the question, the future holds the answer, and the past holds the experience that produced the question. Now we have created linear time. The minute you try and interpret, that's the minute you have created linear time.
And let's try that introduction again. Hello everyone, I'm your host Paul for this edition of Radio Belvaspata South Africa, and there we were going to try to play for you the track from the Sia Almin All About Sleep, but doesn't look like she was having any of that in this show, so we'll try and play the track again for you later. In the meantime, we were listening to Almeen talking about the origins of linear time. And that was, taken back from 2012 still, where she dives deep into metaphysics, sharing insights behind the most basic building blocks of existence, which is really light and frequency. And Almeen was sharing with us there the origins of linear time and detailing the very nature and composition of the matrix, all whilst exposing the two leading tyrants of existence. So some great insights and some great wisdom in class from this year there. And just to open up our show, let's just talk a little bit about what it's like as we become a being of frequency, a being of light, of dimensional fluidity, as we see above and beyond and behind the holographic walls of the matrix, as we start this deprogramming, as we unplug, as we learn to ride waves of higher consciousness, and as we bring awareness to the non-physical world of other worlds and dimensions and realms. As we live in the wake-up of the activation codes that we are all working through, as we welcome in the new and bid goodbye to the old, there is reassurance in all this work, as well as remnants of the programs of fear and disbelief. Or are there? Love and hope is all in the numbers, and it's growing exponentially. There is more to the world than meets the eye, of course, and so much more. This is a wonderful thing, a beautiful thing to be part of. Are you ready to discover more in this episode of Radio Belvaspita South Africa? And that's really where we're going tonight, to really go into the aspects of it. The show is entitled Ascension, Fairy Love and Ringing Ears. And we're going to be talking about some of the ascension symptoms that we have all been experiencing and which many people are reporting. And of course, I love to get the clarity of some of those issues and processes for myself, because I've learned by now, as I experience certain things, and I realize that we are processing aspects of duality as we're closing the old doors and working in the new ways. So tonight, let's delve in and discover some of this. And we've got some lovely audio from this year, Almeen. We're going to listen to Jason Silver, the TV star, as he works through shots of awe. Incredible work that he's done there as he describes the human condition. And we're going to just start working on things bit by bit. So Almeen was talking about releasing the obsessive desires that we hold on to. And there's a question posed to her about the rune of the week prediction for last week. And the question that was posed to her says, how does this week's prediction fit in with the actual rune? And it was said that it is unfair to expect behavior associated with levels of consciousness not actually possessed by another. Overestimating another simply because you do not like to look at flaws puts unfair pressure on them and sets you up for disappointment. Their prediction was, the inner reference points are dissolving. You are preparing for a tremendous expansion of perception. Release the obsessive desires you have held onto to provide purpose and a meaningful direction to your life. Like a leaf on the surface of a stream, allow life to carry you and surrender to the enjoyment of the journey. And Almeen answers that question that was posed to her. She says, although obsessive desires can certainly be about having agendas with life in general, a most significant part of that has to do with having expectation of others that they just can't live up to. This creates etheric cords between people that we used to give reference points to life. These cords also bind our growth and evolution. Really incredible concept there and process. And, well, I don't even think it's a concept, because by now there are two things that happen for me. Either I realize up front what is going on, and just an inner realization of that process in terms of one of those incredible aha moments of knowingness that comes up to the surface, or I have to catch up with it. In other words, I'm living still in the paradigm of some past belief, and I seem to keep fluctuating between those two. I'd love to hear from you in tonight's show as well, and if you'd like to just send us a few comments as we're going along and let us know what you think, how this actually works for you, because this show is really about understanding the ascension symptoms, understanding the inner work that is going on, and letting ourselves just ascend gracefully and with gratitude, and not be held back by a lot of these symptoms which seem at times just to pull us down into the depth of so many things that we thought that we had finished with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to Almeen as she describes how growth through adversity and pain were required to wake us up from the cosmic dream. And this is an old audio, back 2012 as well. But really listen to this and just see how far you've come in terms of being able to release all of that. Maybe pertinent for you, maybe not. But again, just let's sit with the wisdom and begin to work with it right now.
The nature of life as suffering was true only when we were in the very deep stages of the dream. It ended, in fact, in August of 2006, because growth came through adversity. It came through the friction where the known and the unknown met, and where the unknown beckoned, it hid itself within a challenge. A challenge was therefore nothing more than, shall we say, latent or pent-up perception, waiting to yield itself. This was in the deep stages of the dream, and the purpose of life to change the unknown into the known through adversity gave rise to the fact that the purpose of life was irrevocably in that time bound up with adversity, which causes pain. Pain was a real component of life up until August of 2006, meaning that it had a corresponding discordant note in the cosmos that gave it realness. Pain then was a desire to change. Pain is now illusion in that its real part has been removed. Pain as the desire to change arose when we met the unknown, and the desire to change the unknown into the known registered itself upon us as forced change or pain. So yes, that was the truth until August of 2006. After that, growth through grace came into being. And growth through grace was found to be very much slower than what the growth through adversity was. We grew very, very rapidly during that time. But growth through grace is very much easier. We no longer have to put up with situations that bring us pain. And if we think we do, it is a self-imposed limitation, because we do not need to engage where our heart does not sing, because now it is our guidance system as to exactly the place where we are supposed to be.
So there, Almeen was talking about, working through a life that was all about suffering and working with pain, etc., and learning and growing through those particular pains. And I remember that track was really from classes that she was giving in around 2012. And yes, let's look at some linear timeframes now. We're now in 2017. Really, the question to ask ourselves is, are we still in the same process? Are we in between all of this? Do we still have some aspects of working with pain, working with the adversity of it? Or have we come to a point in 5 years of work that we've been doing, have we come to the point where we recognize what adversity is? Do we recognize when it comes up into our life, and then do we ignore it by not allowing it to intervene with us and use it appropriately for what it is in terms of a signal that's coming up for each one of us? So these questions are very important for us really to ask ourselves and just to check where we are at and what we are going. But again, let us not also make the mistake of comparing ourselves to others and their journeys, because we are all individuals and we're walking this path. And tonight's show is really just allowing us to look at the symptoms of what is going on and see where we're at in the journey, and perhaps being able to adjust what we need to adjust within ourselves through realizing that we no longer need certain things in our life. And I, for myself, am finding a huge amount of processing going on where I'm ready just to let go of everything that I've held dear in terms of work and processes that I've put on. And it's just like, no, it can all go now. I'm done with a lot of that. And yet you're still having to work on a practical level just to release it in its own ways and through its own processes, because everything has its state of pace. We shouldn't be dictating what it has to do, but we should be allowing these things that no longer function for us to go, and just living in the full surrender trust and knowingness that we are always fully supported and safe as we're going along. Yes, whether forced change is still coming into one's life or not, will remain to be seen, but I'm certainly working on such a deep, different level than what I was just a few years ago. And of course, I think one of the things that we were doing at that particular time, and perhaps you may be able to recognize this comment or this statement, is that was I really using Almin's work just for information within myself to say, oh, I have this wisdom, I have this information, but finally it is now. And for me, I'm seeing that it has taken seed, and a lot of it is now actually growing from those particular seed state. And then the other question comes up, well, I need to water more of those experiences as we're going along. Right, so we're going to listen to now the TV celebrity, Jason Silva, and I just love his classes. I just love the way he explains and the depth of information, the depth of knowledge, the depth of experience that he goes into, and the questions that he raises are fascinating. So we all know that we have been working with Almin's teachings for many years, and most of our listeners around the globe, South Africa and around the globe, are all followers of the teachings of the mystic and seer Almin. But the big question at this moment is, and something we've posed a few times, on our online radio show here, literally, have we let go of everything that we are not in order for everything that we are then to manifest and to take place? In other words, are we still human, or have we moved into a completely different consciousness, which is beyond the ego, which is beyond the, let's say, the mediocrity of all these experiences which we have been working on? And have we sat in the realization of that God being state of being? It's absolutely fascinating for me, watching myself, watching what is going on within myself. And of course, earlier when Almin was talking about the origins of linear time, she's talking about the immense emotions that she experiences. And I must say, I've been through that experience again. And we've said quite a few times again in the show with some of the guests and, just in comment as we're going along, that what happens is that things seem to repeat. So we can play like these tracks that we have from 2012 and they make absolute perfect sense to us right now. But of course, the sense that it makes is on a deeper level than what it did at the time. It certainly takes us time to grow through grace. And as we grow through grace, we begin to understand things on a different level. So here's Jason Silva now. He's the host of the TV show Brain Games, and he's got a lot of online presence, and he works with some teachings that he's facilitated. Awesome videos if you want to go have a look. It's called Shots of Awe, and this one is about the human condition. So I'm interested to see what he's got to say and add to our conversation this evening. Here we go.
Human beings are the only species that is aware of its mortality. So it's this idea that the source of human neurosis is not sexual repression, as Sigmund Freud would have told you, but that it's actually the suppression of death anxiety. Death anxiety is the source of all of our malaise, all of our neurosis, both conscious and subconscious. It's the source of our greatest creativity, but also our most destructive tendencies and our existential despair. Because we are aware that we are mortal, it causes all sorts of cognitive stress. And Ernest Becker says that the only answer to the absurdity of this situation is to come up with sort of illusions. And so he talks about the three solutions to the problem of death that man has conceived of. One of them, of course, is the religious solution, which is this idea that you create a narrative where you live in heaven with God forever and you'll be saved, and that gives you that immortality. As we have become more scientific and secular, we realize that's not going to sugarcoat it for us anymore. The second solution to the problem of death is the romantic solution. And the romantic solution involves deifying your lover. That's like the modern pop culture theme that influences all the pop songs. It says, she's like the wind, she's my salvation, she is the sun. We turn our lovers into gods. Alan Harrington wrote The Immortalist, says, when in love, we get to step out of the moving walkway that's carrying everyone else towards death, and instead we get to be gods outside of time, commingling with each other in the eternal now. So you turn your lover into God, into a goddess, and that provides respite from the human situation for a while, but ultimately no relationship can bear the burden of godhood. Your gods will reveal their clay feet, and then their frailties will remind you and mirror your own frailties. They'll remind you of your own frailties, and so that's when the relationship starts to go sour, when she can no longer save you. And then the third solution to the problem of death, he calls the creative solution. That, of course, involves wanting to create a work of transcendent value that will outlive you symbolically and grant you that immortality in a metaphorical, symbolic way. Of course, that has been, that might be in the form of a statue or a published work or discovering a vaccine, and that sort of inspires the need to leave a legacy. It's really just a form of disguised symbolic immortality. If you ask me about the human condition, I think, it can be tragic, but also rich and beautiful, and I don't think there's anything beautiful about death or dying. Yeah, it sucks. We gotta fix that.
And welcome back to the studio. This is Radio Belvaspata South Africa show for the 18th of May 2017. It is now 8:30 in South Africa, and thank you for staying with us and joining us. There we were listening to TV celebrity Jason Silver explain about his understanding of the human condition. He did end up saying we need to fix that, but I suppose that's one's own perspective and one's own journey. But I'm really seeing there is that living in the human condition, the real lesson there, the depth of the lesson is always to make it real. And Almin teaches this as, living in authenticity, living in the integrity of the moment. And a lot of her wisdom really just takes us into that particular aspect of creating a reality that is all-encompassing and in oneness, that we are just expressions of the infinite flow of life. Today I was pondering about the aspects of perfection and how there's perfection in every single thing there is. And I must say that poetic process for me has been helping me see things in a different way and just allow things to be no matter what they are without literally having to fix them. But there has been one symptom going on in the last few weeks for me that has been very, very interesting, is that I have been sitting with tinnitus, and that is a ringing of the ears. There's been a heightened ringing of the ears. And so it was very interesting for me today to discover a post on a Facebook page or a group called Love Has Won. And I just love some of their writings and some of the inspirations as they detail what is going on. And this is just, I'm going to read it out for us, but it's called The Current Ascension Symptoms, Heightened Ringing in the Ears and More by Celia Fenn. And she's a well-known channel in the world and purported to channel the Archangel Michael. I remember many years ago I used to follow some of her teachings. But what has been going on for me is when I've been reading this is I've been, on the show we've been really looking into the different sub-personalities like the inner warrior and the sage and the child and all of this along those. So you'll be aware of all of those. We don't need to really go through them. But I think we're back in the inner child state in a little bit, because I'm feeling that the mother is doing what my mother used to say, making my ears ring. And there's been a pulling of the ears. And my physical mother used to say to me, I'll pull your ears or I'll make your ears ring. And I've never forgotten that particular threat. And boy, did she at times. But yeah, there we go. I suppose it takes two to tango. Anyway, let's get back to what Celia Fenn was saying here about the heightened ringing in the ears. And she says, I'm writing this because so many people have asked about their current symptoms, and especially those associated with the ears. So that's what I've learned by now, is that when something is going on in me and any form of bodily process is going on, bodily pain, etc., I look at the language of the pain and then I realize that it is a Ascension symptom and I just need to work through it and allow what is coming up. Isn't it amazing worldwide how we can all have the same symptoms, and it's not even season related or hemisphere related or country related, but we all go through the same things much at the same time. And again, awareness of that situation really helps us. Back to the article, Celia Fenn writes that many people have reported an increase in what the medical profession calls tinnitus, which are ringing sounds and buzzing sounds in the ear or both ears. Then others have reported pain in the ears, and often that pain shifts down from the ears into the teeth and jaw, or up into the head, where it becomes dizziness and headaches. Yeah, you got it. Some of us have been reporting a lot of this, and I'm very grateful for the Almin family and the Lightworker family around the world, because often somebody posts something up and that triggers a bell or two for me just to go have a look, and then everybody responds and say we share so beautifully together, and thank you for that. Celia writes that this whole process can be frightening, as these areas affect our daily functioning and our ability to maintain our balance on a daily basis. However, this process is part of the shift into what she is terming a multidimensional energy signature of the light body. The ear and the inner ear are situated between the 5th, 6th and 7th chakras, or in other words, that area of our spiritual anatomy that connects us to the high dimensions. So it follows that as we are realigned and rewired to connect more fully with our solar and galactic heritage, so we will feel changes and movements in this area. Archangel Michael guided me, this is Celia Fenn writing, to look at an image of the ear in order to explain what is happening to our bodies in this transformation. If you look at the inner ear, you will see an organ called the cochlea, which is shaped like a spiral. This organ is responsible for translating sounds received into impulses that can be sent along the neural pathways to the brain and be heard and understood. But on the higher dimensions, the cochlea also acts as a galactic antenna that can receive sounds as signals from the higher dimensions. There is a cochlear spiral in each ear, and they work together to facilitate the function of hearing within the body. But in spiritual terms, the left ear cochlea works with the left brain to receive and ground information to do with life on earth, whilst the right ear cochlea receives and translates information from the galactic level that connects to the spiral and mystical realms. Both are connected into the nervous system and the brain. However, the impulses that activate the cochlear spiral on the level of higher consciousness are transmitted via the pituitary gland, and then into the cochlea via various neural pathways and light meridians. This means that when the galactic light codes are being transmitted very strongly through solar and galactic radiation waves, then the pineal is more strongly activated, and likewise in those who are ready, the cochlea begins to vibrate with the messages of the language of light. In a balanced individual, the activation of left and right cochlear spirals ensures that there is balance, both literal and emotional, mental and spiritual. In our planetary culture, we have been very out of balance, with the left brain being strongly activated and the right brain not. We live in a left brain society where little importance is given to the activities and functions of the right brain, starting right from school and continuing into adult life. And so it is that as the right brain cochlea begins to vibrate in harmony with the light code transmissions of the galactic spiral, you begin to hear transmissions that you did not hear before. This may simply sound like white noise at this time, as your brain has no idea how to translate it into meaningful language. But as and when you begin to work with your right brain and expand into the magical higher dimensions, these transmissions will begin to take on shape and meaning. You may begin to express the language of light through painting, through music, through poetry, or any other right brain activity that you favor to express the flow of galactic light codes. This is one of the reasons why so many people are feeling out of balance at the moment. The reliance on the left brain side is becoming so unbalanced that people are in danger of moving into the shadow energy of the left brain, into paranoia and psychosis and depression. So many people may have no idea why they are suddenly feeling so depressed, so anxious, paranoid, and maybe even psychotic. And because this is so widespread, even if you do not feel it yourself, you may feel it coming off other people in their interactions with you. Certainly this is a challenging moment in our transformation process. We simply need to recognize what is happening and work to bring balance. Activate that right brain cochlea with creative activity, with magic, art, dance and music. Dream and dance, paint and write, see the patterns and the magic in all things. Don't get caught up in the shadow side of the left brain downward spiral. We all need the downward spiral to ground us in a healthy relationship with Earth. But when it is unbalanced, then it becomes a pathology. I have to say also that I found that eliminating dairy products from the diet can also help us at this time if there is ear pain. Dairy products cause a build-up of fluid in the ears, and there is already pressure in that area, so this can then cause pain. And when the pineal is very active, that pain can be quite intense. So, dear friends, I guess this is the time to listen up and start hearing those new transmissions that are coming to us. I am working with painting, and the language of light transmissions are part of what I'm doing now. Keep your balance, try to stay out of drama and paranoia, and spend as much time as you can in the creative world of the right brain. Soon our planet will rediscover that magic and creativity are the keys of time, and that when we understand time and how to work with time, we will create a very different world on a very different timeline. The key is within us, as above and so below. We have our own galactic transmitter that is now coming online. And that's the author and channel Celia Fenn telling us all about the issues that are going on with the ears and the ringing of the ears, etc., etc. And yeah, time of great balance. And I think I've been having to find that balance for myself all along the way. I'd like to hear from you if you are getting noise overload at the same time. 3-4 times a day, I literally have to just close off and take some deep breaths because the noise overloads around me are so intense and I'm so sensitive to them that I actually cannot cope with it. So what I do is I just have to walk away and do some deep breathing for a few minutes. So yeah, you can see where the connections are coming with us tonight, and the earlier class from the Seer Almina, she talks about the origins of time and space and of linear time, and we know that that is all dissolving. And as we move into more exponential experiences, then we are going to have to let go more and more of which no longer provides, shall we say, sustenance to us. Life has certainly changed and is continuing to change. Remember, this is the year of living in high magic, and we are starting to work through all of that. Right, so let's now look at this. As beings of light, we have had the inclination to want to know. The need to know and the interpretation of experience creates linear becoming, which leads to cyclical change. To move beyond, we must understand how to truly experience without trying to know. We find that when we hold on to plans, preferring one moment of time, which is frequency, and space, which is light, there is then a loss of innocence. The loss of innocence removes the wonder of the moment. Right, we're going to listen now to the mystic and Seer Almin. She talks about the eternal moment, and this is taken from a class in 2012 called Beyond Light and Frequency.
Now, in the records of the Hajika, which is a set of records that I've just recently completed in translating, it expresses the fact that time was formed when the infinite held on to peak experience. A peak experience is, wow, this was so wonderful, I want to feel it again. So now it's held on to something, and that creates cyclical living. Because now it has to figure out, what is it that I have had such a rapture from? What is it? And secondly, how can I produce it again? Now you have started to create a circle, a disc, that goes round and round, and you've started to create cycles. You're on a treadmill like a hamster. To hold on to any experience, whether good or bad or rapture, keeps us on the treadmill. And you have to interpret it to be able to reproduce it again, and therefore now you have electricity and you have magnetics holding the memory. This is how light and frequency formed. So, what is the answer to that? The answer is a most profound concept, and that is that there is nothing to know. There is nothing to know. Everything to experience. Now, I am going to make myself wrong from what I said this morning to what I said yesterday, to what I've said for months. I have said, all we have to do is interpret the divine will that pours through us like a river of life. To interpret makes us electrical. To just experience without interpretation grounds the electricity. All day, in the midst of emotional feelings that I am extremely unaccustomed to feeling, as I've let go of frequency, there has been this feeling that I am missing a vital concept about the fact that when you are highly electrical, it pulls in catastrophes. How can we prevent that? By a few, knowing themselves to be all things, grounding themselves. We've been discussing this. Well, how is that done? By knowing there is nothing to know. Truly experiencing without trying to know. Now, I watched my great joy and anticipation in teaching a men's workshop. And I was trying to understand why. And I understood that it's because of the way, it's what Toltecs call my predilection. I have an inclination to want to know. And in a men's workshop, the energy is more vertical, linear. It puts deep roots down into the mystical and the metaphysical knowledge. It doesn't explore the circle around it. That is a more feminine approach. For me, the depth of knowledge is the greatest joy. In other words, we've become addicted to the electrical. I've become addicted to knowing. What is it that is missing? What song is missing that creates addiction to light? I know I've had addiction to light. For years I've been observing myself. But I couldn't find where the addiction came from. Because, you see, if addiction is there, there's a part of your own being that you're not expressing. Addiction is something that simply comes to fill the gap of an unsung song in you. It is the childlike, innocent wonderment at the moment's experience. That is what I'm not singing. For instance, this afternoon, we had wonderful experiences. We had trauma release. We had the Bhavas initiations. We had the vast walk on the beach this morning. Was a very magnetic based. So what do? This evening, I want to make it cerebral based. Because I want to give you a smorgasbord of things. I want to give you also the deep insights, the knowingness. We're addicted to light. And the need to know. And in many classes where I've tried to introduce more experiential and less feeding of knowledge, I've had people say, this class just wasn't the same. Because they didn't get their junkie fix of light, which is knowledge. And so, not only me, but my classes, everywhere I look, light workers are addicted to light. So, the experience of things without having to know why or where it came from needs to be supplanted or replaced by the effortless, spontaneous experiencing of the wonder of existence. We don't analyze, we just live. Because we don't even ask, which is the divine will? When we are incapable of making mistakes, we can do nothing but the divine will. How can anything make itself so arrogantly big that it thinks that it can possibly do anything other than what the infinite is expressing? The guilt that people feel over mistakes that they've made will be gone when we truly realize it is arrogance that causes guilt. Can you imagine that? Because arrogance says, I can actually do something contrary to infinite will. There is, and will is not even it. Because will means that there's a plan. Only when we hold on to time, which is frequency, and space, which is light, when we want to relive peak experiences, or we want to do the if-onlys, and next time I'm going to do this better, and what if I do it this way? Only when we have those kinds of plans is there a loss of innocence. And the loss of innocence removes the wonder of the moment. And this is the next step. When we live as beings that are not electrical nor magnetic, Our presence upon the earth will prevent catastrophes because we will become the ultimate grounding rods for the hyper-electric state that humanity is in, seeking and seeking and seeking forever knowledge of one sort or the other.
And welcome back to the studio. There, the mystic and Shir Almin was really explaining about the definition that as beings of light, the addiction that we have to more of the same. She's talking about the need to know. I'm going with a lot of those at the time because I do now and again get trapped up in this. I need to sort, I need to fix, I need to know. But I must say nowadays it's actually dissolving a tremendous amount, and I'm much more comfortable just not knowing and just allowing things to come out as it was. Now, Nick and I used to have a saying when we had a discussion about certain processes that were going on. And then we said, okay, well, we'll see, which meant really between us that we would wait and see how things would pan out, how it was going to work, etc., etc. And we used to get really, really frustrated at the time frames that things used to come up. And so we'd actually stopped saying we'll see in our lives, a few years ago, because we said, no, let's not even go down that road. Let's just not allow ourselves to allow that space and that time in. Just know that everything is going to work out. And we hadn't spoken about it for several years, but I see in the last month or so, him and I are going, we'll see when we are having a process or something that we are planning and building on. And it's in a completely different context now. It's in a context of, well, it's going to work out the best way that it can. We don't need to know that it is. It's just we know that it is. We might not know how, and we'll see how it does. So it's more like discovering for ourselves the perfection of things that unfold. And lo and behold, there it comes up, and it always works out for us. Really, really beautiful just to watch. But I think the important lesson for us to really learn here is that, we don't seem to be able to handle frequency very much at the moment, but we mustn't go running around now saying, well, let's work on frequency and ignore the light. Let's just take the unknown and then make it into the known. This is all a process that is happening very naturally. Almina's told us that there's no such thing as the unknown any longer, that everything is in the known. We'll just uncover it naturally in our own times when we are ready to work with all of that. And she talks about becoming the grounding rods to really prevent catastrophes on earth. And you can see as the wave of humanities, the graph, the up and down graph within humanity comes and changes. And the tinnitus is a classic example of things clearing out and for us learning what is going on. I love the term that she uses there about a junkie fix for light and knowledge, and with the need to literally know. But I think most of all, when she talks about the loss of innocence, removes the wonder of the moment. That has really struck home for me. And it's working with the aspect of me working with a poetic perspective, seeing perfection in every single thing, and just enjoying the wonder of that particular moment, whatever it is. And I must say, it felt very, very heavy about 2 weeks ago. And suddenly last week I woke up one morning and all the debris, the stress had gone off the body. But we're now back into a state of no sleep. And I'd love to hear from you as well, if you are sleeping or not sleeping, at night time, if you're actually getting some rest as it goes on. But absolutely fascinating that every day unfolds, every week unfolds. And as we listen to and read the rune predictions of the week that Almin gives to us, and of course the one that comes in from the Russian light family as well, is also profoundly incredible. I love it to bits, and I love understanding what that is all about. So, we're going to listen now to the spiritual teacher, Greg Baden. It's a very short clip. He talks about living in the heart. Let's see how we resonate to that.
So the question then that the scientist asks is, if we know the experiences work, if we know that when one person or a group of people come together and they share a common experience in their heart for a period of time, such as the International Peace Project in the Middle East, where people came together to feel the feelings of peace during the Lebanese-Israeli War in the early 1980s. During the time they created those feelings, statistically, terrorist activities dropped to zero. crimes against people declined, emergency hospital room visits declined, traffic accidents declined. And so the scientists ask, if this prayer is so powerful, then why didn't it last? And this is the crux, the secret of the ancient traditions that has been missed by so many people today. Because this experience in our heart was viewed by the scientist as something you do for a moment in time. So you go about your daily life, and at a certain time, you stop your daily life and you do this heart experience, this prayer. And when the prayer is over, you stop the prayer and go back to your life. And the crux of our most cherished, sacred, and ancient traditions is very clear that this experience of the heart is not something that we do. It is something that we become. It is something that we live in our lives. Life becomes the prayer. Every moment of every day is the prayer. And because this modality of prayer, it's called the lost mode of prayer, feeling-based prayer, because the prayer is based in a feeling, and we can have a feeling all the time. We can have a feeling in our cars, driving on the highway. We can have a feeling in the office, in the school, with our families, alone in the park. We can always have a feeling, and that means we can always be in prayer. But it's not something that we do in a moment. It's a way of living. It's a way of life. It's something that we become. And when we do that, the prayer never ends. And that is the secret to maintaining the powerful effects that are documented by science and that the ancient texts and the Essenes tell us are possible in our lives.
And that was spiritual author and teacher Greg Baden telling us all about how living in the heart is the actual poetic prayer. And I think it's such a beautiful fitting just to understand that that few words that he's been able to share with us gives us some understanding of how we are living in a different state of being altogether now. So yeah, there's a lot of new things coming up. Almeen Diary has been very busy. Lots of incredible information on Lightworker as well on that website that Almeen has. Really follow it and subscribe to it if you haven't. It just provides us with day-to-day guidance and the most amazing amount of wisdom just to allow yourself to delve into it and to begin to work with it. Absolutely stunning. I'm grateful every day for the cosmic mantra that comes up for us, and it's shared within our local WhatsApp group here. And I can only encourage those people around the world listening to actually create your own groups or join up with ours or connect on some level just to support each other as we all step day by day into a different form of ascension into the processes that are coming. So there's something new coming up in Almeen Diary as well, and really just highlights what we have been talking about at this moment in time today, and it'll bring a whole new closure to the processes that are happening for us. She says that the body as an expression of our limitlessness, and we're going to listen to an audio in a moment or two, which is hopefully we can get it up live for you. In this message, Almeen reveals how up until this point in our cosmic history, the body has been a limited tool, much like a hologram. Yet in the next evolutionary stage, our body actually becomes us, an expression of our limitlessness in a coagulated form of white light. The first step in this process is the opening of the 7 portals of limitlessness in the body to prepare the self for this new reality. And this is, of course, going to be some online teachings that is coming up for us. So let's listen to what has Almeen's got to say about that. And then, of course, we can subscribe to that as well.
As the deadline nears for the early bird registration for the very, very profound series of 3 workshops regarding limitlessness, it is something I wish to endorse with my whole heart. We have studied for eons the issue of spacelessness by learning about inner space affecting outer space and by learning how to integrate them. And truly, inner space is limitless. So, what we have as a next step is the grand and profound evolution into becoming a body of white, immaculate light. And as I've said before, up until now, we have worked with the body as a tool, but it was just a practice run. The body was, in fact, a limited tool, as though it were a hologram. We were the formless part working through this formed part. But this changes when we go into this big evolutionary step. Our body then becomes us. And it is this concept that is so important that it prods people with unpleasant symptoms when they make that transition or are ready to make that transition, that they must get. That it is our limitlessness expressing in a coagulated form of immaculate white light. This is a very advanced concept to get. We will be dealing with it throughout the next year. It is simply our next step. But the first step is to comprehend and prepare the body for limitlessness. This magnificent shaping of ourselves into our body is a powerful event, but an event that has to be preceded by the portals in the body opening for this new reality, a world in which we live in high magic. So my beloved ones, we hope to see you there. Much love and respect to you always. Thank you for walking this journey with me.
And that was the Mystic and Seer Almeen on her latest post up on Almeen Diary there. Of course, you can go listen to it again if you wish, or I know you can connect on our radio show and you can look at the edited formats and draw down these particular audios that we are playing to you. Can't wait for all of that to come apart. Very, very exciting to be part of the journey. And really, I'm just so humbled and honored to have all of you with us and to be able to share this journey with you in terms of just understanding where we're at. And even if we don't have clear understanding in any moment, just knowing that we are fully supported and working with each other. We truly have earned the name Light Family as we're going along. And isn't it beautiful to listen to Almeen speak again and just to see the clarity in the voice, that her own ear and throat issues and all of that she had from her medical emergency 2 years back, she's recovered from it all now, and the voice is just so absolutely beautiful to listen to. And Greg in San Francisco, thank you for posting that beautiful picture of Almeen staring out over the waters next to a castle today. Absolutely beautiful photograph, and I had to just step back for a few moments and just look at her, and time indeed seemed to melt and stop altogether. So Almeen Diary, there's been a few more processes going on, and Almeen posted today that this evening, which must have been last night, I was wondering how to direct the global expansion of humanity's habitat into more environmentally friendly ways. I felt pain vicariously for the earth because of all she had to endure. Immediately a small, very luminous little being hovered in the air in front of me. She spoke in her fairy language. Many fear for the earth's future, but they have not heard of fairy magic. Soon our magic will be strengthened with 11 magic sigils, and then your heart will be glad, because the earth will blossom as a rose. Almeen says we will be receiving these sigils from them, and fairy artwork is already starting to move across the screen of my mind. They have 11 messages for us that they call the notes of the happy song. I gratefully admit that they've gladdened my heart. The future feels lighter. We must avoid the doomsday prophecies of the fearmongers of the world, so that they don't shake our faith and rob us of our hope. We are the way showers, and we are the artists that paint a miraculous future. And that's, of course, on today's Almeen Diary by the mystic and seer Almeen. I've also come to know over the years of having the privilege of being able to work with Almeen's teachings is that when an emotion or when a process goes on, you either feel lighter or you feel more dense, etc., etc. There is a major, major shift going on. And 2 weeks ago, you'll remember that Almeen provided or gifted to us a meditation for the earth. And that was just a 10 or 13, 12-minute meditation. It was absolutely profound and beautiful. And everybody around the world had really sat and worked through it all. I was just so taken aback by the beauty and the stability of that particular process. And it wasn't long after that, as I explained earlier, that I seemed to wake up and had shaken off the debris and density of things and really felt so much lighter within the body. And even though, honestly and openly, I'm extremely physically tired at the moment, and Nico and I are just talking about that as we go through things, because when we go to sleep at night, there's no sleep. The inspiration and creativity, the plans that are coming through, literally, we couldn't write them down fast enough. We have a big whiteboard and we just need to start putting all of those plans and ticking them one by one, because one follows another and another. And there's like these multiple paths that you have to follow. So I'm beginning to understand for myself how Almeen can write so many different books and webinars and posts and different processes all at once. She's just learned to master them all in one particular go. And for me, I'm learning just to do what is sitting in front of me at this moment in time. And as an idea or a process comes up, then just step into place and do it, and then move forward and move on from it. Right, so we're just coming towards the end of our show now. And what I'd like to do is just in celebration of this moment of absolutely doing the notes of the happy song. And I'd just like to also share with you, Nico as a musician is quite incredible. He's writing so many beautiful songs at this moment. Very powerful emotion being pushed out, and this creativity is flowing. All of his singing and vocal students, he's all written songs for them, and there's a whole album coming out. And we formed a new group now that he's doing as a duet with somebody, and he's writing songs for all of them. And he says he just cannot stop playing that music. So definitely something is coming out. And as we were saying earlier, the right brain is kicking in and the creativity is flowing. It's absolutely magical to be able just to live in the flow of all of that. And yet we still have our day-to-day lives and our day-to-day process. And it's really just fascinating watch as it all happens. So we're going to play some beautiful music here. I love this track. It's called Talking Drums by Almeen. And as we go through it, we're going to sign off. So yeah, let's listen to this. Let the actions of your life be elevated by grace. Let your laughter and your tears flow freely, tempered by an eternal perspective. May the poetry in your heart hallow your experiences. Thank you for joining us here tonight on Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. It is a privilege and honor for us to be able to broadcast to you and to the world every single Thursday at 8 p.m. We value all your comments, we value your input, and we value the time together that we have just put aside just to share in oneness the teachings of the Seer Almeen and to talk about where we're at in our own evolution and our journey of ascension. May you all know love, praise, gratitude, and trust. Until next week, until we see you again, and I'm just saying thank you to Nico for handling our desk so beautifully this evening. Goodbye until next week.
Contented he lies, his innocent eyes looking deeply into mine. In my arms, warm and safe, sleep envelops his baby face. He releases the day with a sigh. Like moonlight on a mountain stream, into the place of dreams he gently floats away. From heaven you came on earth to stay, though among the stars you play, so pure a soul, like an alchemist's stone, can turn the lead of life to gold. Do you remember whence you came? From sacred realms where compassion reigns? We can make this world a peaceful home. Sleep now, my child, secure and safe, wrapped in the love of my embrace. Though small you may be, you are not alone.
You've been listening to Radio Belvaspita, South Africa. Thank you for listening and sharing in our discussion. Should you have any questions with regards to the healing modality of Belvaspita or have any healing needs, please send us an email to info@belvaspita.co.za or add comments to our page on Spreaker.com so we can work on providing a suitable response. We now close this episode with the eternal ascension qualities of love, praise, gratitude and trust, and look forward to sharing again with you next week. Goodbye.